I invite you to picture yourself in an art studio, and you have in front of you, you have a blank canvas. You have your paints and your brushes and your oils and all that stuff. And you have a vision in your mind of what you want to put on that canvas. And for this analogy, you'll want to put a small island on the canvas. These are the kind of islands that we see all over the Philippines. Tour boats take you to them. They call it island hopping and that. And on these islands, there might be caves and stuff like that. Mostly just like little shorelines, and people can do a little snorkeling, swimming. They might have huts. So this is the kind of island you want to put in your painting. So you put the elements that you want to have in there. You want your water. You want the sky, clouds, sun, maybe birds in there. Maybe you want boats along the shoreline, people, and then your little huts and stuff. So you're putting this element by element onto your canvas, and you decide, well, you know what, I like parking lots. So I'm going to put a parking lot in the middle of the island, like an empty parking lot with the lines, maybe good enough for 20, 30 cars. And then on the entrance to the parking lot, you have the little gate, and you have a little security house for the parking lot attendant, and you have an attendant there. Detailed parking lot in the middle of a resort island. And so you continue on with your painting, and just after a while, you just come to a point where you think, well, I like parking lots, but maybe it doesn't fit in this environment. So you come to a crossroads. You can finish your painting with the parking lot in there, live with it, and just whatever. Or you can say, well, you know what? I'll just scrap the painting and start again without a parking lot. So now let's take that analogy to life. So let's take that analogy to your life. So in your environment, your current state of your whatever, finances, health, relationships, career wise, all of this encompasses where you are, like your state of mind and how you approach things. And sometimes you come to a crossroads and you think, well, okay, maybe certain elements of this aren't for me, so you move on from it. A different job, different relationships amongst friends, acquaintances, different habits, different interests. You know what? It's not worth pursuing this. I'll move on to something else. So let's come to my painting. In my canvas, on my canvas, I have a painting that is encompassing of 5 years of my life, from 1988 to 1993, from my ages 25 to 30. First element, I was a very physically active person, and I still am. It's part of my psyche. I need to move. I love the freedom to be physically active. I love walking. I love walking at a fast pace. I love exercising. Currently, my exercise here in the Philippines is swimming. I happen to have a pool here, so that's my main form of exercise. When I'm in Canada, do more walking. At that time, in that 5 year period, I was I was walking a fair amount. Whenever I didn't have a vehicle, I'd be commuting by foot. I was participating in racquetball with some friends. Really got into that. That was fun. Not the whole 5 years, but in periods. Also, I was getting into resistance training to build up body mass strength. And that really helped me. And to this day, I still carry that resistance. What I built with resistance training, I still carry today. And it's still part of my strength as being a maintaining health in my senior years, so to speak. So another element to that time period is I was employed in food services industry, working in kitchens and that. So when people are employed in that industry, you know that you have easy access to food. So there's no shortage of nutrition in your life. Fortunately, I was still in that metabolic period, 25 to 30, that being overfed was not a big issue. My metabolism could handle all of those extra overfed state. The overfed state really contributed as well to my lean mass in relation to the resistance training. So whatever muscle mass that I was building was aided by the fact that I was getting the nutrients that I needed to grow that all that tissue and bones. So uh, added to that, another element which still relates to everything there was my social circle. You build relationships with workmates and extended family and like friends and that, and that social network is, of course, it's rewarding. It's something, we all look for validation with our peers. Another element to that was alcohol, quite common, especially in that stage of your life. You like to have drinks with your friends, relax, laugh. And for me, it was always just beer. I've never been one to get into hard liquor or anything like that, or chemicals, just beer. So we would often go out, have a few beers, sometimes a little too much, and then you'd be doing the drive-throughs on the way home. Maybe get sick the next day, recover, and the next night go out again. The final element to all of this, and the one that was only applicable to this 5 year span, was I was smoking. So I smoked from 1988 to 1993. And of course, that ties into the social scene, lifestyle. And back in the early 90s, it was still acceptable there were a lot of places you could still smoke, including the nightclubs where you could go, you could smoke and drink at the same time. It's just, they went together. So my smoking habit was was not like, it wasn't like a heavy chain smoking, addiction or anything. It was just more, a couple of packs a week. And so towards the end of that 5 year period is when I first started noticing that I knew that the cigarette smoking, that habit, was starting to take its toll on my ability to perform physically, exercise. I could go for walks, maybe have a cigarette at the same time, and starting to feel like, you know what, I'm getting out of breath. And I really valued that ability to express myself physically, exercising. Then one day, I'm walking home from work and I lit up a cigarette and started smoking it. And there was no dopamine hit. There was nothing pleasurable about it. And I was continuing to smoke the cigarette and it had a disgusting taste. No pleasure. So at that moment, I decided, well, okay, well, I'll put the cigarette out. And then I just happened to be walking past the trash can, took the rest of my pack, and then just chucked it in the trash can. And made a decision right there on August 4th, 1993, that I was never going to smoke again. And I believe that one, besides the physical activity, how I was prioritizing that, at my ability to perform physically, I was prioritizing that ahead of the pleasure of smoking, had a big effect on the success since. And I think the other thing was is that I had that added benefit of having that really horrible taste in my mouth when I was having that last cigarette. So at that point, cigarettes never represented a pleasurable experience for me. And I was worried that if I participated in the social scene after that, drinking, I was worried that it was going to ruin that experience, not having that cigarette. But no, it didn't affect it. I didn't notice it at all. So that was like well over 30 years ago. I haven't smoked at all since. And you know what? It was like I took that canvas, saw that one element did not belong in it. So I took that canvas, poured some gasoline on it, took my pack of matches, lit the match, threw the other rest of it on her, and it just burned everything. And I started a new canvas. But anyway, you know, we we all face times in our life when we set our priorities, and that's life. I think about the analogy of the painting. Actually, you know what? My wife and I actually got to visit the Louvre in Paris, and we went to see the Mona Lisa. If you've never been to the Louvre, it's such a it's an interesting place. You go through, and it's like a series of buildings that kind of goes in a big horseshoe. And you go through all these different periods of history, different types of art exhibits and statues, paintings, carvings, and all kinds of stuff. And you're never going to soak it all in. It's just way too much. All of those places that you go into, it's it's hush. It's like a library. There's a certain mustiness to it. They need to control that environment to preserve all of that art. When you get to the Mona Lisa, though, night and day. It's this big room, about half the size of a convention hall. You go in there, it's crowded. Everybody's just clamoring to get near the Mona Lisa. It's like she's the rock star, the idol. So you kind of move your way in. Like I was with my wife, and then she kind of separated from me, and then I'm trying to find out where she is because well, she's a little short. And then I finally saw her, and then we went towards the barrier, which is like another 6 or 10 feet away from the Mona Lisa. And so we turned around for a selfie, the Mona Lisa in the background. So my point, all of these masterpieces, all of these masterpieces that you see, I would hazard to guess that the majority of them were works of art where the artist was never satisfied with it. There was always something that they would have liked to have changed on it. And isn't that life? I mean, we all contemplate our experiences, past, present, and then try and sum that up and calculate our future. Well, I hope this little presentation resonates with you. I would be honored to have you comment, leave your opinions. We're all in this journey together. I thank you very much for joining me here today, and I hope to see you soon. There's a brownout.